Yeah. Good. Good. Yeah. Yeah.
Two-minute warning, folks. 2-minute warning.
I've emptied your mailbox, so let me find out.
Yep. Yeah.
Are you good?
Good.
Good?
Good.
Well, howdy.
Howdy.
What's happening? Living the life.
Right.
Well, I emptied your box out. If it would have been in there, I would have done.
I'm calling the July 8th, 2021 regular meeting of the Roswell City Council to order. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Peterson?
Here.
Counselor Sanchez?
Here.
Counselor Oropesa?
Here.
Counselor Robeck?
Here.
Counselor Foster is absent. Counselor Best?
Here.
Counselor Kennard?
Here.
Counselor Stubbs?
Here.
Counselor Perry?
Here.
Counselor Moore?
Here.
Mayor Kintai?
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask everyone to please rise while Councilor Oropesa leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Councilor Perry does the invocation. Councilor Oropesa, you have the floor.
If you could bow with me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we are thankful to be here today, and we're grateful for all that you have done for us. Lord, it's been a trying year for our nation, but Lord, you've blessed us in spite of everything. Lord, we're grateful, Lord, for the rain. We pray that you would slow it down a little bit and allow it to come in shorter spurts, Lord, that our ground will be able to handle it and be good for our agriculture and be good for our community. Lord, I pray you keep everyone safe. Lord, I pray at this time that you would just be with us as we make decisions for our community, that they would be wise, that they would be honored by you. And Lord, allow us the opportunity to do this business tonight. Keep those safe that are protecting us on our borders tonight and across the world. Keep them safe. They're fighting for our freedoms. And we ask all these things in the precious name of Christ our Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Counselor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda to include the public hearings that are proposed ordinance 21-7 and 2108. Also to take from the consent agenda and place on regular agenda as per requested by Councilor Oropesa in the following order. Number 6, RFP 21006, the Air Service Development Consulting consideration. Number 7, the ITB 21-005 for the rehabilitation project. The lease from the Air Center. Number 8 on the bunker. Number 11, Resolution 21-40, which is concerning the disposal of certain surplus personal property. Number 12, the Resolution 2141, which is the Water Trust Board consideration. Number 13, which is Resolution 21-42, which is for the rehabilitation of pavement. And number 14, which is the Resolution of 21-43, which concerns the recreational trail project. Those will be heard in the first, in that order, and then to include the minutes, the one resolution, and the 6 requests as presented.
I have a motion by Counselor Perry. Counselor, if you'll activate your motion button. And a second by Counselor Moore to approve the agenda as presented by Counselor Perry. Is there any discussion or debate on the motion to approve the agenda? Hearing none, seeing none, I will ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the agenda as presented by Counselor Perry, and no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
I have, all right, I've got, I think, 7-2. All right, I have Counselors Best and Counselor Kennard voting no. Moving on to my announcements. I have a few I need to share with you. First off, the restrooms in this portion of the building, the older convention center area, are not functioning. There is one restroom behind us in the hallway down here. So if you need to use a restroom, counselors, audience, please use the one right behind me on the other side of this wall. Next item I will share with you. Counselor Foster is not with us this evening. He was admitted to the hospital yesterday for gallbladder problems. He had surgery this morning. He is, however, home and is doing fine. So we're all thankful for that. Finally, once again, I'm going to have to do this on a regular basis, say thank you to Mr. Matthews and to Ms. Karen Sanders, our emergency service coordinator. Once again, we had issues with flooding on the south side of town. Once again, the levee broke and flood waters came in. Both Mr. Matthews and Ms. Sanders went up in a helicopter ride to identify the problem. They were the first ones to do so and to relay that information to the other entities that were responsible for maintaining that So I am very appreciative of these very dedicated individuals who never seem to sleep. And on that note, I will move on to Mr. Nebb.
All right, good evening, Mayor, City Council. I asked for just a kind of an opportunity to go through a presentation. We had no other presentation scheduled, so I asked for the time. And I will speak a little bit louder into the microphone. But so I'm going to take an opportunity. We're going to talk about a little bit of some of the current events out there that we don't get to spend a lot of time on, just to kind of bring you up to date with some of them. This is not an all-inclusive list. There are a lot of different things that are moving and changing on a daily basis, but right now I was going to cover the UFO Festival, Cell 5, Monsoon season, the American Rescue Plan, personnel and facilities, just to kind of give you a shotgun shot of some of the things that we're all working on right now. Really quickly with the UFO Festival, this was the first year that the city became more of a participant within there with Main Street Roswell, with the UFO Museum, and so we had a lot more different partners in there. Most of the final numbers are not out, but most of the signs are pointing at this to be in a record-breaking season for our annual festival. The UFO Museum as Ground Zero has already stated in the newspaper that they've seen record numbers go through. Main Street Roswell was very active with many of the local downtown activities, and I think one of the things that we worked on that we would have done last year during the COVID season if it hadn't been for COVID was that the city of Roswell actually took on the responsibilities of expanding this event outside into other areas of the city. So we brought in the use of course, we've always used the museum with the planetarium. We had an arts and crafts fair out at the zoo. We had water yoga out at the rec center and aquatic center. They almost kicked me out of that class, but they let me stay in the deep water. So we had all these activities out there. And then, of course, the convention center ended up getting used because we didn't know for sure if it was going to rain or not. And so we pulled some of those events in-house into the building. And then the weather held. So I guess it's catch-22. If you go one way, if it would have rained and everybody would have been outside, it would have been just as bad the other side. So many of our businesses are stating that their sales were great and some had their best weekend ever. I think that one of the things that we're already starting on, because next year will be the 75th anniversary of the crash. And so if you look at what the 70th year was, 5 years ago, this will be a big event for Roswell. It'll bring in a lot more different things. So we're already meeting as of next week. We're going to talk about the good and the bad of what happened with this year's event, and we're going to be building out from there. Just some of the really other quick numbers that I don't have on this slide. We heard that the hotels, the annual daily rate, which is one of the metrics that we use, was up 10% for this weekend, and they were full. And so it was really nice to see those things as well too. It's really interesting because Juanita provided me with some of the numbers that we're using. It looks like the visitation actually is a little bit less than what it was in 2019, about by 100 people. So a little over 12,000 people came through and attended the UFO Museum. And so, but what we've seen, and based upon some of this, is that the spending was greater within that same group. So I expect that we had less locals and more people visiting from outside is what I think one of those trends are. And so we're looking at that. We're going to be going in through a system of triage to look at the good things, the bad things, and then try to determine how we can make next year even better from where we were at this year. So. Going on to cell number 5. As of yesterday, cell number 5 was supposed to be completed. However, the material is sitting on the ground out there. It's all ready to go. They can't get into the cell because of all of this rain that we had. The ground is saturated, and we've had problems with getting getting everything working. So I know Lewis and Abraham are working through with the company for a change order for setting a new completion date. The nice thing with this is that also we were worried about filling up cell 4 because we had this little had these times worked out. They were able to discover a way to reopen cell 4, keep it open, change the elevation of the final grade of that, and it's going to buy us 5 to 7 more months of using cell 4, which then will give us the time to get the ground unsaturated and get this product in. And so we're really thankful with the staff out there, with Lewis and with Abraham, kind of holding us together. And of course, the contractor has been out there helping. I'll talk a little bit more about them in a little bit, but everything is looking good for cell number 5. It sounds like we've got our handle on it. It sounds like we've got ways of handling it. So the monsoon season, for 4 years I've been told about this monsoon season that happens in Roswell, and it finally happened, I believe. It has been a lot, really, really wet. The only reason I wanted to talk about this is because all of this water, we are not built in the high desert for all of this water. And so it has wreaked havoc on a lot of our different services. The weeds are growing hourly. And so getting them cut down and holding them down, they grow a lot quicker than all the beneficial plants, And so parks and right-of-ways are a constant challenge when we don't have enough staff yet to get them out there. I'll talk about that in a second as well too. But the solid waste center, we had to close down the road that actually fed into the cell 4 because it wasn't built for all this moisture either, so it started sloughing off to the sides, and we didn't want anybody injured, so we ended up having to close for a little bit. We've actually had some of the trucks, I've got pictures in the office, where some of the trash trucks going down the alleys are sinking into the alleyways because our ground is not used to all this moisture and everything. So we are making the most of it. I know that solid waste, for sure, they are on an extended overtime schedule trying to stay ahead of this so that everybody can be taken care of, and so just be patient with this is all I'd ask. Of course, flood control. Engineering is watching all of our streets. Everything that went south that was underwater for any length of time, we expect that those roads or those areas will break down faster because it wasn't constructed for this type of moisture. So we'll be keeping a very close eye on it. So don't be surprised if Mr. Nayar comes in with a request of fixing some work on Hobson Road or YO Road or anything, because anytime that moisture stays on those roads that long, it can cause havoc to our infrastructure. Other than that, I think we're holding together fairly well. The mayor talked a little bit about Mike Matthews and Karen Sanders. They are constantly discussing this stuff. I think that the helicopter flight, the pilot was actually a Vietnam pilot, and so they actually went down into the riverbed a little bit farther than they're used to, and so, but it was, I think Pink Floyd played on the radio is what they were talking about, so it was a good time for them. American Rescue Plan. Okay, so we received a bunch of paperwork from the state. We filled it out. We've got it turned in. What we have found out is that the $11.12 million that we were supposed to get has now changed to $11.7 million. So we have the paperwork. We put the mayor to work signing a few of the documents. And so this will be coming forward to the Finance Committee very soon. In order to start talking about what we need to do to amend the budget in order to take care of these funds. So we have a tentative list of projects that I shared with everybody, but we need to really we need to start making some decisions on there. So we will be providing that list. I think we have a little bit of everything covered. I know Juan is going back through and Janie are going back through the information to make sure what we are recommending can actually be done as well too, because the rules tightened up as we got closer to getting the funding out. Personnel, just really quickly, this is a challenge for us. If you remember the job fair a couple months ago, we had 101 positions available to be filled. We still have 79 positions to be filled. So we have a little less than 30 employees that we were able to hire over the last 2 months in order to fill these positions. 655 positions in all of the services that we have. Still have 79 positions We are going door to door next, and just anybody over the age of 16, we're going to commandeer and bring them out and work for us. But all right, we won't do that. No? Okay. Mayor doesn't think that's a good idea. But it's like one of the challenges that we knew we were going to run into is that citizens are impatient for the services that they're used to. And so they are pushing very hard for us to keep everything moving the way it is. I know that Parks is getting ready. They're implementing a longer overtime section because they're about 17 positions shy of keeping everything cut the way it's supposed to. And so they are having to utilize their people in order to get that done. So everybody, every department out there is utilizing overtime to a certain extent to make up for that difference. But we have jobs. We are ready to go. We are talking about another job fair in September, October, along with the city's job fair. I know we're talking with the EDC to open up another community-wide one, because as we believe, as well as a lot of people out there, that when the unemployment funding cuts off a little bit or shifts a little bit, we believe that people will be ready to come back, and so we're ready to help. And on facilities, just a few things. Now, there will be a bigger presentation next month to talk about our whole strategy of leasing to owning property, to our clean and safe program and everything else. We're going to have a big property presentation next month. But I wanted to share with you some of the things that we're already doing. The police department, some of our auxiliary services are getting ready to go out to that West 2nd Street building, the old National Guard. So that work is in its final completions, and so we'll be moving that out there. We are still working on trying to establish neighborhood police stations on the north and the south, and then look at what we want to do with the old police station building. Community development, we'll be leasing the first floor of the SunWest building. We have that completed. This will help us meet the goal of the comprehensive one-stop shop, and so that to meet all the building needs within the city. But and I will say that a building itself doesn't do it. It's the personnel and it's our policies and our procedures that we're utilizing. So over the next 6 months, as they're renovating that first floor, getting us ready to go, staff is working on simplifying our application process, simplifying the procedures that are taken to get in there. We actually went back to taking payments over the phone, which is a really helpful thing. Janie helped us get all that work done, and that is helping all of our business people that have to take time out of their day to come see us, and it keeps them in the field working, which is what we want to see. A couple things that will be parts of the conversation with the American Rescue Plan as well too. We have the Roswell Museum and Art Center. We are preparing for the building renovations over there. Of course, the work that is being considered right now is a phase 1 for the overall plan, but the overall plan has a children's interactive space. It has an updated Goddard exhibit, store relocation, and an improved entry point. Phase 1 will be the store relocation and the improved entry point, and that phase is expected for completion in 2022. Spring River Zoo, we are preparing for the site planning for the Leprino farmland experience. For those of you that remember, we received $2 million from Leprino that will go to be creating this experience out at the zoo. We anticipate, depending on how big that project is, that it'll be upwards about a $4 million project when you put in all the other bells and whistles that are necessary to feed it into what we're hoping will be a good event center for the zoo. And so that expected completion of that project will be 2023. Pond renovation is almost completed. Speaking with Jim Burris right now, we are tentatively planning for getting that work completed in October of this year. And note that it's taken us a lot longer with the pond than we wanted to, but I will tell you that Mr. Burris has saved us thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, because he has worked with the flood commission in order to bring out the equipment to clean out the stuff. He has done the magic that Mr. Burris can do to keep the cost down as low as possible. I think that the challenge we've had to give up time in order to get that to that level. But we're right there at the end of this thing. I think overall the estimate for that project, when we got the numbers put together, it's about a $700,000 project that we're getting done for possibly half of that. I'll know once we get it all done. Game and Fish is all ready to go with stocking the pond and everything. I know Mr. Wright, our new zoo director, he's in the crowd. There he's, if you haven't met him yet, please introduce yourselves to him. They're preparing right now the programming for how the pond will be utilized. And it was always built for an educational effort, and so we're looking forward to all of that. And that information will be coming to all the committee meetings in the near future as well. And so next month we will be reporting on the Clean and Safe program and the lease to own. Todd Versiglio and Kevin Mavers will be here to help cover that. We'll introduce you to our new code enforcement supervisor, Toby Franco. He is here today. We've warned him that he's going to have to answer the hard questions on the weed ordinance, right? So we'll put him on the spot if we have to. But we will, as we look at the lease to own, I will just state that one of the big things that we are trying to do is reduce our deferred maintenance on our current buildings. We have about $40 million worth of deferred maintenance in all of our buildings. And so some of these buildings that are not iconic, like the museum or the convention center, we believe that we can do it differently through a lease process rather than to own that building and have to invest that money back into it. So I think we'll cover that in greater detail for that time frame. I believe that is everything that I had on my presentation. I can answer any questions, but I just wanted to give you that shotgun approach to a lot of the activities that we're doing. Mayor, City Council, thank you.
All right. I have Councilor Oropesa and Councilor Roebuck. Councilor Oropesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for my own personal information, you mentioned the Flood Control Commission. And I wasn't aware that there was an active Flood Control Commission. Is it associated with the city or the county or?
The Flood Control Department or the Flood Control Commission, I believe that's what their true title is a county supported function. Tim Jennings is actually the director of that, appointed by the governor. And they're the ones that are out there doing the large infrastructure work such as the levee. So the work on the levee was done by this flood control group. They do come through, they do help us take care of the riverways when they can for certain types of debris. We maintain the weeds, we maintain the need for the graffiti and everything, but their primary responsibility is all the flood channels within the county.
Is there more than one member in this commission?
No.
Go ahead.
All right, Councilor. Former Senator Tim Jennings is, as Mr. Nebb said, the appointed flood commissioner. There's only one.
There's only one.
The superintendent is Mr. Dick Smith. They have a brand new facility way out on West 2nd. They used to be in the old armory. They're where the police department's going. They used to be there. They've been in existence since 1947. Morgan Nelson, you may remember, was the flood commissioner prior to Senator Jennings, and he had that position for many years. When he passed away, the governor appointed. Now, my understanding is the county commission acts as the physical agent, but the funds are actually state funds. In other words, the state passes funding for this entity through the county.
Well, that's good information to know. 'Cause
Yeah,
personally, I didn't know it. Thank
and
you.
by statute, they can have a tax rate too. And so
Yes, there's a lot to that,
Yeah,
and I am
and,
just touched the surface, and I don't want to present myself as any real
Yeah.
expert, but I've learned a little bit over the last few months with Mr.
But I
Mathis.
know Mike and Karen have worked closely with them through all of this in order to, along with the Army Corps of Engineers and all the federal agencies as well too. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
I have Councilor Roebuck, and that exhausts my list. Councilor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the lease versus own strategy, I am anxious to see the information on it. I think that for a long time the city obviously hasn't leased anything. We do have a lot of buildings, and I think that it's really important that we get very clear numbers on that to make sure that is a good short-term as well as long-term strategy
Right.
for the city, since it certainly is a new strategy that we will be we'll be jumping on. So I'm anxious to get those numbers as soon as, you know, if not, as soon as you guys have them available.
Yeah.
And I would just, you know, encourage you to make sure that we've dove deep enough into the numbers as well to support that decision. With the on the Loprino farmland experience, you know, $2 million to $4 million is a huge gap there, and it would be good at some point, whether it's one of the committees or to this body, to get a report on that, because I mean, one thing that has been mentioned a couple times is that the idea of using it having some sort of convention type space, and I would really be interested in seeing how does that fit with the city's larger vision, how this building is going to be run, how other convention space is going to be run, as well as our private convention space. How does
Sure.
that fit into the model of what we're offering already in the city? I am excited about the farmland experience. I think it's going to be great. But that question of where does this fit in to our convention picture? We have a decent amount of convention space already. And I think we need, before we get too deep down that road, let's make sure that we feel really good about that part of it. As far as the other part of it, the animals and all that stuff,
Right.
you know, I think that's pretty obvious that that's going to be a great thing for the zoo. I yield.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have no one else on my list, so therefore we'll proceed on to item number 4. Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. This is at the recommendation of the Legal Committee that I move to approve ordinance number 21-07, amending section 6-11 of the Roswell City Code by incorporating by reference the 2018 New Mexico residential and the 2018 New Mexico commercial energy conservation codes, which include adoption of the 2018 International Energy Conservation Code.
I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs to have a public hearing and vote on proposed ordinance 21-07 with a second by Counselor Perry. Mr. Neighbors.
Mr. Mayor and councilors, tonight is the final step in the housekeeping item that we brought to you last month. Ordinance number 21-07 will amend section 6.11 of the Roswell City Code by adopting the 2018 New Mexico residential and commercial energy conservation codes. Of course, the Legal Committee recommended approval at their meeting on May 27th. Last month, we brought it before you, and you voted 10-0 to bring it forward tonight for a full public hearing. So at this point, we're available to answer any questions, but we are, of course, recommending that you review and approve the proposed ordinance.
Do we have additional slides on this, or is...
Oops,
Oh, there we go.
there we go.
I was wondering what happened to that. All right. Since this is a public hearing, we will take input from the public. Even if you have not signed up to speak on this matter, if there is anyone present wishing to speak on this matter in support or in opposition, they may do so at this time. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition to proposed ordinance 21-07? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Let the record reflect no one chose to speak in opposition. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in support of proposed ordinance 21-07? Anyone in support? Let the record reflect no one chose to speak in support. Is there anyone online wishing to speak on this matter? And the indication I have is that there's no one online wishing to speak on proposed ordinance 2107. Let the record reflect. Councilors, any questions or comments on this matter? I have Councilor Roebuck. Councilor, you have the floor.
Just a real quick question, and this is for hypothetical purposes only. This kind of thing, if for some reason we didn't pass this, what's the, I always like to know what the consequences, what are my options?
Mr. Patterson, you want to, I think that's more of a legal question.
It's my understanding that in order for our officials to be able to do their job, the building officials and all that, they require these to be passed for them to have that authority.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Since this is a proposed ordinance, I will ask for a roll call vote. A yes or aye approves proposed ordinance 21-07. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box when you respond. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Peterson?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Orpesa?
Yes.
Counselor Robeck?
Yes.
Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Aye.
Counselor Moore? Passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Next up is item number 5, Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This also is at the recommendation of the Legal Committee that I move to approve ordinance 21-08, which is amending section 12-1 of the Roswell City Code, which would bring Roswell into conformity with the New Mexico Legal Elections Code.
I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs and a second by Counselor Perry to have a public hearing and vote on proposed ordinance 21-08. Mr. Patterson.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. So you'll remember from our discussion last time that this is something that's been a little while coming. Starting in 2018, the New Mexico legislature basically completely, totally revamped the entire legal regime related to elections. And this was not just statewide elections, it ended up really changing how local elections are done. Back in the day, we had our local election, we had our municipal election code, which was in the municipal code, so Chapter 3, Article 8, and it was very specific to municipalities and told us everything we needed to do a municipal election. The legislature totally repealed that entire article and created what they're calling the Local Election Act, which is now in Chapter 1, which is the General Election Code. And this Local Election Act actually leaves a lot to be desired in terms of not really addressing the way that the old municipal code did how we do a municipal election. It generally just, with the exception of some requirements for candidacy declarations, refers you to the General Election Code. But that General Election Code was written with partisan statewide elections in mind, and so there's a lot of stuff in there that it's difficult to figure out how we would implement that on our level. The upshot is that the existing 12-1 that we have, which was based on the old election, the old municipal election code in Chapter 3, is now a dead letter as it stands now because it refers to sections that are no longer in force and procedures that don't exist anymore. So the idea here is we did our best to try and look at everything that's in the election code and the Local Election Act and figure out how it would play out with our system and create an ordinance that would be in conformity with the Local Election Act and be something that we could work with. We did run this through the City Clerk's office for help because Sharon is the one that knows way more about this stuff than I do. So with that, this was recommended by the Legal Committee back in May, and y'all recommended or authorized to approve this for advertisement in a public hearing unanimously at your last regular meeting. And so staff is asking you to please hold a public hearing and consider adopting this ordinance. And I'll stand for any questions.
All right, thank you, sir. Since this is a public hearing, even if you have not signed up to speak on this matter, you may do so. Is there anyone present in the audience wishing to speak on proposed ordinance 21-08? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to proposed ordinance 21-08? In opposition. Let the record reflect no one chose to speak in opposition. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in support of proposed ordinance 21-08? Anyone in support? Let the record reflect no one chose to speak in support. Is there anyone online wishing to speak on proposed ordinance 21-08? And the indication I'm getting is there no one wishing to speak on 21-08 online. At this time, councilors, questions, comments? I have no one on my list to act on this one. Therefore, we will go to the vote. Once again, as this is a proposed ordinance, it will be a roll call. A yes or aye approves proposed ordinance 21-08. A no or nay rejects it. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Peterson?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Robeck?
Yes.
Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Aye.
Counselor Moore? Passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next up, item number 6, Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is at the recommendation of the Legal Committee that I move to approve that the city manager enter into negotiations with Mead and Hunt Incorporated of Peachtree City, Georgia, and if agreeable to both sides, enter into a contract for RFP number 21-006, Air Service Development Consulting.
I have a motion. Counselor Stubbs, if you activate your motion button.
Maybe.
Thank you. And I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs to authorize the city manager to enter into contract negotiations with Mead and Hunt under RFP 21-006. I have a second by Counselor Moore. Mr. Stark.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Councilors. RP 21006, as Councilor Stubbs has mentioned, is to award the Air Service Development Consulting to Mead and Hunt. The RFP went out on May 23rd, and we opened up the proposals that came in on June 15th via a go-to meeting. There were 3 responsive proposals, and they were sent to the committee for recommendation. Those proposers were Crawford and Tilley of Springfield, Illinois, Flair Aviation of Miami, Florida, Mead and Hunt of Peachtree, Georgia. The legal committee recommended 4-0 the award of the RFP to Mead and Hunt, the recommendation of the committee. So a little background, we did this 2 years ago with a 1-year contract and a 1-year extension based on performance. This contract is almost exactly similar contract to that one. It's a 1-year contract as well with 3 additional extensions based on performance. And I wanted to say just a little bit about that performance that Mead and Hunt has performed for us for the last couple of years. As I'm sure everyone remembers, we started that contract with the idea of going after Denver service with United. We hired Mead and Hunt to help us with the grant for the small community air service development. We got that. We went after that service. COVID came and intervened, so it put us on hold, and we're still to a certain extent on that same hold. But the city has been able, through good consultation with Mead and Hunt and our own efforts, to both stay engaged with United and continue to keep that conversation going for the Denver flight, as well as to intervene with the issues that came up with American to keep our American service. So I am very grateful that the committee chose to recommend Mead and Hunt and wholeheartedly support this award. Stand for your questions.
All right. Questions or comments? Councilor Oropesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, according to the abstract, there were 3 proposals received, and based on the committee point system, Mead and Hunt was selected. But the amounts for each proposal were not provided. And generally, those amounts are provided when you have an RFP. Is there a reason why we didn't get an amount of each proposal?
An amount is in a dollar amount?
Yeah.
That will be negotiated in the contract.
So what did the proposal include then? I mean,
So the proposals do show the individual amounts, and honestly, I haven't seen them yet. The committee has seen them. Purchasing has those contracts, or those proposals, I mean, but I haven't seen them yet. And so as we go to look through the contract to negotiate that, we'll use those individual proposal prices per item to develop the contract.
Because according to the abstract, it says proposals were received and publicly opened via a go-to meeting on June 15th at 2 p.m.
That is correct.
And so were those amounts included?
Yes.
When they were open?
Yes,
But we don't have the amounts.
purchasing does.
But we don't have the amounts for the council.
I don't have, no, I'm sorry.
That is, I mean, to me, it seems like we should have had some kind of information to show us what is the maximum amount that the city manager will be allowed to negotiate with. Is he going to stick to the amount on the proposal, or are we being asked to approve that he can go beyond the proposal amount?
It would be the amounts on the proposal,
So he won't go further then?
correct.
Mr. Nebb, did you want to?
Yeah, Mayor, City Council, I'll lean on Mr. Patterson a little bit with this as well, too. If you look through the award recommendation report on page 16, it covers exactly what's in the RFP. These numbers are not included in that RFP based upon the protection of the information through that. This is that convolution within the RFP process that we all just love to deal with. But if you read down through there, what the ranking was on was the offerer's experience, what the qualification of the offerer, the qualification of the key personnel, and then the cost proposal. Even though the numbers aren't there, the report from the committee or the team that actually did the work determined that this one was more cost effective than the others. I understand Councilor Orpace's concerns about not having those numbers, but I think that's where we started utilizing going into closed session. We can pull out the documents and everything to walk through all of these to get a little bit better. I anticipate that this cost proposal is not much different from our current proposal. So I haven't seen any of that information yet either, because of the necessity to protect the system, the RFP system within it. But I know Mr. Nahar came up here and whispered in my ear, a lot of these RFPs do not have final numbers in them either. They would be estimates of a larger, of what it could cost. And then we balance that out based upon how much they're used. I know it's a little convoluted answer to it, but that's the best answer I believe we'll have.
Yeah, so in the end, when we get a contract started, those numbers will be final numbers in the contract proposal.
Well, the problem that I'm having is that according to the abstract, the RFP was opened publicly, which tells me that all the information was available to the public.
So, again, I'm not a procurement person, so I won't get too deep into that, but my understanding of the way that works and the way I've seen it work is typically they open the proposals, they look through them to make sure that they're responsive on the first blush, if you will, and they give the names of the folks that are proposing. Then those proposals all go to the selection committee, and then they rank them based on all of the RFP specs that we put in there.
And Counselor, just to explain a little bit, it's a distinction between bids and RFPs. Bids, when they're opened, are open to the public and anybody can come see what's in the bid. But although an RFP is publicly opened, as Mr. Stark has alluded to, the contents per state statute are required to be held confidential until the award is completed, including the final signing of the contract. And so sometimes you may see the numbers out there, but that's typically because it's a bid and not an RFP.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
All right, I have Counselor Stubbs, Counselor Roebuck, and Counselor Perry. Counselor Stubbs, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Patterson beat me to it. I think that's what I was going to say is the difference between an RFP and a proposal. And that's why my motion included the city manager to negotiate with the highest ranked bitter, I guess, for lack of a better word. And so this is the way state statute does require us to handle this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you. Counselor Roebuck and then Counselor Perry. Counselor Roebuck, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think another important point to make is that if for some reason this particular Mead and Hunt, who won the RFP, if they came back and tried to negotiate a price that was too high, the city manager can walk away and is free to negotiate to the next person in line from a score-wise. So there certainly is a check and balance in that. We're not giving a monopoly to one particular company. They still have to negotiate with the city manager, and the city manager is not compelled to enter a contract in with them. I yield.
All right, Counselor Perry, now exhaust my list. Counselor Perry, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to say, I understand totally Councilor Pace's concerns. I've had those same concerns, and Lewis, for a member many years ago, when I was just ready to pull my hair, and I felt bad for Lewis just because I was being such a pain in the neck, because I felt like we needed the information, just as what Councilor Pace is saying. I just wanted to say that through that process I learned a lot, and I think the city learned a lot as well, in that there are some things that if we will go to the procurement officer on our own, that we have the ability to learn one-on-one. So I just maybe make that suggestion, because I've had the same concerns Councilor Pace has. So if you will ever have those concerns, speak with the procurement agent, and she will be able to help you through some of that process to get maybe not all the questions, but a lot that you're looking for answered, to help you do just what you're trying to do, make the most educated vote possible. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Counselor. That exhausts my list. Since there's no one else wishing to speak, I will ask for a vote. I will ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the awarding of the RFP to Mead and Hunt, and authorizes the city manager to enter into contract negotiations with Mead and Hunt. A no or nay rejects that. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0. Next up is item number 7, Councilor Roebuck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to award ITB 21-005 NM.CN 2104400 North Atkinson Rehabilitation Project to J&H Services of Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the total amount of $1,326,071.38, which includes GRT.
I have a motion by Councilor Roebuck and a second by Councilor Kennard to approve awarding the ITB 21-005, to J&H Services of Albuquerque. Mr. Nahar.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Before you have North Atkinson project, as you see on the slide, this is the southern half of North Atkinson between 2nd and College. This project is between 2nd and Cherry. If you remember last month, you helped pass a resolution to put in another application to go from Cherry to College. So that would be phase 3. Phase 1 was Atkinson from McGaffey to 2nd Street. We had 3 bidders. J&H Construction was the low bidder. They have done a good job. They did the South Atkinson project. They're also doing our landfill project. They're very diverse. Infrastructure passed this 4-0, and I stand for any questions.
And I have, councilors, any questions or comments? I have Councilor Oropesa. Councilor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really don't have a question on this one. I totally support this. But this project is coming out of fiscal year 22, right? That starts in July this year?
Yes, sir. It's this year's money. And we will be reimbursed $1 million from the New Mexico DOT.
Okay. And one of the reasons that I pulled this one is because I believe it is important to let as many people know that we are working on addressing this issue, since the streets is a very a big concern for the community. And I realize that the issue was discussed at the infrastructure committee, and But I believe that the more the people hear of the efforts that we're doing with the streets, the better off they are, because some of them will not go back and listen to the infrastructure committee information. So that's the reason that I pulled it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I have no other counselors wishing to speak. I wish to throw a couple 2 cents worth in. This project has me, and we've talked about this, Mr. Nahar and I, about the load on Atkinson and College, which functions as a truck bypass or relief route for the city of Roswell. These streets, this particular section gets torn up, I would say, pretty heavily, unless I'm mistaken, Mr. Nahar.
That is correct. This portion of Atkinson is New Mexico 256.
And what I would wish to be able to say is that we are pursuing an eastern bypass to take this truck traffic off of our surface streets inside the city. But unfortunately, that concept seems to have fallen by the wayside many years ago. I would hope that we could reinitiate a discussion to have that happen, because we need to get these trucks off of our streets so that you don't have to come back in 5 years, assuming we're all still here, and asking to do it again. That's my 2 cents worth.
I will enter into dialogue with New Mexico DOT.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments, counselors? Thank you for your indulgence on my comments. This will be a voice vote. A yes or I approves the awarding of ITB 21-005 to J&H Services of Albuquerque in the amount of $1,326,071.38. A no or nay rejects the award. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0.
Thank you, Counsel.
Thank you, sir. Next up is item number 8, Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was again at the recommendation of the legal committee in June that I move approval Bravo 3 Holding LLC, an Arizona limited liability company, to enter into a new lease on bunker number 1112 at the Roswell Air Center, consisting of 1,790 square feet, more or less, for the purpose of storing components of small arms and constructing mining fuses and blasting caps. Term of the lease would be July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Rent amount $300 a month or $3,600 annually, to include all other terms and conditions of the lease.
I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs and a second by Counselor Perry to approve the awarding of a new lease on bunker number 1112 to Bravo 3 Holdings LLC. Ms. Garcia, you've changed.
Yes.
Mr. Christopher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Councilors. Yes, this would be for Bravo 3 Holdings. Like I said, the bunker at 1112.
We lost our video, our
Did I do it?
timeout. We just lost our PowerPoint. Did you do that?
I don't think so. That's my magnetic personality.
Okay, you want to go ahead and talk about it, and we can hopefully
Sure.
catch up with the PowerPoints here in a second.
So yes, 1,790 square feet, more or less, proposing to storing the components of small arms, construction fuses, and blasting caps. And the term would be from July 1st to June 30th, 2022. And I stand for questions.
All right, any questions or comments on this? Councilor Pesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for my own personal understanding, is this bunker the same bunker where the fireworks accident happened, or is it nearby somewhere in that vicinity?
Counselor, it's not near where the fireworks were. This is a bunker that was previously held by Red Mountain Arsenal, which was a previous tenant. So it's not in that location. It'd be more centralized, and the two bunkers that are basically centered from essentially center in the air center.
And since this bunker will be used for the purpose of storing components of small arms and construction, mining, fuse and plastic caps, is there any special attention that need to be considered so we don't have an accident like we had?
No, the considerations are that these are, I don't want to get into the fireworks because I'm not privy to what happened there, but with the storage of the location of these bunkers, it'll be the same as Red Mountain Arsenal. The blasting caps will be secured separate. There's not going to be any, there's not even munitions, more especially like dynamite or whatever. So while all they're going to be doing is storing their blasting caps and fuses there, there won't be any dynamite or any other explosives.
Thank you.
All right, I have no other counselors wishing to speak on this matter. Therefore, I will ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the awarding of the lease of Bunker 1112 to Bravo 3 Holdings LLC. A no or nay rejects the lease. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0. Ladies and gentlemen, items number 9 and 10 were approved when the consent agenda was adopted. We are now on item number 11. Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that we approve Resolution 21-40, which is the authorization of disposal of certain surplus personal property on the recommendation of the Finance Committee and a vote of 3-0.
I have a motion by Councilor Perry and a second by Councilor Kennard to approve Resolution 21-40. Mr. Fuentes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilors, so this is the monthly resolution to dispose of personal surplus property. Some of the items listed in the exhibit include items from departments, whether they're vehicles. The library has quite a bit of items there, most of them coming from the green estate that was donated to the library. There's some antique items there that are listed in the disposal list, as well as a police vehicle and a backhoe from the cemetery that will be traded in. A lot of these items have a value that will be the minimum bid that will be placed on public surplus. With that, Mr. Mayor and Council, I will stand for any questions.
Any questions or comments for Councilor Oropesa? You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On Exhibit A, it says it's property value 2,500 or less. And Exhibit B says property valued at 2,501 and more. But the 213 Dodge Charger is valued as an auction reserve of $2,000. So why is it on Exhibit B rather than Exhibit A? Not that it makes any difference, but
Right.
just curious.
Well, Mr. Mayor and Councilor Oropesa, this list was prepared by Mr. Glenn, and as you indicated, I think there is that inconsistency where if following the resolution and the value, obviously that item would have been on Exhibit A instead.
But you have noted a value of $2,000 though, which is obviously is less than 2,500.
That's correct. So it's still going to be, again, it should have been an item listed if the value is $2,000 would have been listed in Exhibit A instead of Exhibit B.
Okay. Like I said, it really doesn't matter, but
It doesn't matter. It's just, that's how he separates the different values of anything.
Mr. Neb, did you
Mr.
want to
Mayor,
jump in?
Councilor Oropesa, I would state that the $2,000 is actually the reserve balance, and so that is the minimum that we will accept for that vehicle. So I expect that what Mr. Glenn was thinking is that this vehicle should sell for more than $2,500, And so that's why it's on the 2,501 and above. The reserve is the minimum that we would accept. So I am anticipating that the reason that that vehicle's on there, talking with Ms. Hicks for fleet and Mr. Glenn for the surplus, we expect this vehicle to come in at a value higher than the $2,501.
Okay.
So the final bid. And so I believe that's why it's on that list rather than up on the 2,500 or less, just because of the type of, what we expect is going to happen through the bid proposal. And it's a requirement of the state that we have to identify on these two classifications. I believe that's what's happening.
Okay. And my next question is the 2002 CAT, it says it's going to be traded in and it has a value of $7,000.
Yes, sir.
Traded in for what?
This, as you can see up here, this is the trade-in backhoe for the cemetery. So when we purchased the new backhoe for the cemetery, we're utilizing this one as a trade-in. We've discussed, this equipment is actually too old for us for what we need to use it for. So when we upgraded to the new backhoe, we utilized the value of this one for the trade-in, but the city council still has to declare it as surplus in order to recognize the completion of this use.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I have no other individual councilors wishing to speak on this matter. Therefore, at this time, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves Resolution 21-40. A no or nay rejects it. All those in favor of Resolution 21-40, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0. Next up is item number 12, Councilor Roebuck.
We went through item number 9 and 10, so please.
Sir, you're out of order. Please sit down. Someone can explain this to you. Can either Mr. Matthews, Mr. Matthews, can you explain to this gentleman what just went on? All right, we're on item number 12. Councilor Roebuck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we approve Resolution 21-41 to accept Water Trust Board through New Mexico Finance Authority project funding terms to construct new water lines in Edgewood area.
I have a motion by Councilor Roebuck and a second by Councilor Kennard to approve Resolution 21-41 to dealing with acceptance of Water Trust Board funding. Mr. Nahar.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you again. What you have before you is 2141, which is the Edgewood Water Line Replacement Project Phase 2. The slide you see before you shows the rest of the phases we still have to do. You can still remember the Garden Street project that we did, which was Phase 1 from 3rd Street to Cherry. And actually in that project, we extended the 12-inch across Garden, so now we're on Cherry where we'll start the project. It'll be on Cherry Street from Garden to Atkinson. We'll build a new 12-inch water line and tie in all the streets as we go through and any customers that are hooked in. Just to give you a preview for the future, all the other colors that you see, the rest of the orange, we've been working on these projects for quite some time, so we still got the rest of the orange to do and the green, so we'll probably have phases 3, 4, and 5 in the future. The project is estimated to cost $1.1 million and change. The Water Trust Board gave us $750,000 as requested. 40% of it is a loan at $300,000, and 60% is a grant and $450,000. The loan portion is 0.25% interest for 20 years, and administrative fees 1/4% when they do the loan closing. Infrastructure recommended this project 4-0, and I stand for any questions.
All right. Councilors, any questions or comments from Councilor Oropesa? You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you explain who the Water Trust Board is?
The Water Trust Board is a government entity, and the members are appointed by the governors. And what they do, they seek applications for water quality, water storage and transportation, which this project is. They also for sewer projects. So what we did, we put in an application, and remember, I came to you, think back in March, to put in the application to see if we could get some money. And what they do, they just look at water projects, whether it's the clean water side or the gray water side on the back end. And then this money will be administered to Mexico Finance Authority.
So why could we just go directly to the finance authority for,
Because the water, just the way state has set it up, I couldn't tell you how, the history of the Water Trust Board, but it's been around a long time, and it's just one of those that we go through. Similar to the legislative grant that we had for one of the valve projects, we had to go to New Mexico Finance Authority. Also with the tanks, when we did the tanks, even though it was an EPA loan, it was administered to the New Mexico Finance Authority. So there's all these programs that are signed either through state money or government or federal money to certain programs, Water Trust Board being one, but their financial experts is New Mexico Finance Authority.
the project is for 1,152,630. And according to the abstract, the city is being offered a grant of 750,000, of which 300 is based on a 20-year loan, and 450 is a grant.
That is correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
So in essence, the city is responsible for 702,630, which would include the 300,000 and the 402,000 grant, or which is the remainder of the cost. So why not, and I guess I'm just thinking out loud.
No,
Why not pay the 702,630 dollars up front instead of borrowing 300,000?
When we put in the application, we asked for $750,000 grant. The Water Trust Board and all their procedures, they decide how much of a grant, how much of a loan that each entity will get. And that's how the cards fell for Roswell. But we request a $750,000 grant.
So do we not have the 702,000 to be able to pay it off instead of getting more in debt?
Mr. Mayor and Councilor Presa, if I'm, just from what I'm familiar, because I'm from a little bit familiar with this program, that the state has different funding agencies, funding programs in place that provide a loan grant combination. This program offers a portion that is a grant. If we were to go to the NMFA directly, NMFA does not provide a grant. They would just loan the money. So a lot of communities actually use these funding sources because they are able to get a portion of it as a grant that they don't have to pay back. That's why the program allows for a low interest on the remaining portion, and that's how part of that program revolves its own funding. So there, as Louis indicated, there's other programs that we can apply for that have a combination loan grant. One of the other federal programs is USDA at the federal level, also the Colonias grant, for example, although not in this for the city, but the Colonias is another similar program that provides loan grants to communities, especially those that do not have the capacity for the full project, but they can accommodate a small loan. Again, that's the reason for this program, and that's the benefit of it, because we can get part of it as a grant.
So am I understanding you correctly that the grant is contingent upon whether we get a loan or not?
Mr. Mayor and Councilor Pereira, that is correct. I mean, what they're offering to the city is a combination of loan grant. We have to take the loan if we want the grant portion of it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have Councilor Perry. Councilor, you have the floor.
If I just wanted to add that, yes, there is a portion that is a loan. The interest rate is a quarter of a percent. It's 0.25%. The benefit that we're receiving from these finances coming through the grant far outweighs that 0.25% over 20 years. So in the end, it is a drastic win-win for the city and for the constituents that are going to receive these benefits faster than later. Thank you.
All right, I have no one else wishing to speak on this matter. At this time, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves Resolution 21-41, accepting the Water Trust Board financing proposal as presented. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0.
Thank you, council.
Next up is item number 13. Councilor Roebuck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we approve Resolution 21-42 to accept NMDOT funding in the amount of $199,050 for pavement rehabilitation improvements, control number L200528.
I have a motion by Councilor Roebuck and a second by Councilor Kennard to approve Resolution 21-42 dealing with acceptance of NMDOT funding. Mr. Nahar, welcome back. Long time no see.
Long time no see, Mayor. Mayor, council, what you have before you is Resolution 21-42, New Mexico DOT project agreement. I will say this is what we call a local co-op agreement. So this is actually being administered from District 2. Engineering put in for an application for some money through District 2, and they graciously accepted to split the project 50-50 as requested. This is East College from Atkinson to Maine, and what we're going to do is a Nova chip. You're familiar with the Nova chip? We just did that on North Main from College to Country Club. What this is the resolution for the project agreement, so then the mayor can sign the project agreement. I can send it out to District 2. We'll get all the paperwork going, the project certifications going, and the schedule would be to get this one done before Thanksgiving. And Infrastructure Committee reviewed it and recommended it 4-0, and I stand for any questions.
All right. Questions, comments? Councilor Orpesa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. According to the Local Government Road Fund Municipality Cooperative Agreement on page 50, in the packet, item number 2, it shows that department share shall be 75%, which is $199,050. And then it says on section 2, public entities which is a city, required proportional matching share shall be 25%, which is $66,350, which would bring the total project cost to $265,400. But the amount shown here is $398,000, and I know that it does say that any cost above the $265,400 amount would be the responsibility of the city. So my question is, what are the extra costs that brings the project up to $398,000?
There are no extra costs. The full project, if you look at the application that was first submitted in the packet, was for the $398,100. The way the local co-op program states, they can only give 75%, even though I was asking for 50%. So the agreement says we'll cover for any money over that, and which we're doing that. My application, if you look at the application, from the very beginning was $398,100, and then the $199,050 is what we're asking for. We're getting that. It's just how they have to do it on their own paperwork. I see that every year. I just chuckle and go on, because as long as we get our money, we're good. I will also say in our fiscal year 22, if you look at our projects, this project is funded already for the full $398,100. So it's just a matter of how they have to do their paperwork to give us the agreement Bottom line is we'll get to 199,000 and change.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? I do make note that this is also part of the truck relief route.
That is correct, Mayor.
Thank you. So we're
And I
spending.
will, and I will talk to the DOT.
Okay, just broken record, thank you. At this point, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves Resolution 21-42, accepting NMDOT funding for this project. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0. Next up is item number 14, Councilor Roebuck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we approve Resolution 21-43, which provides support of recreational trail project application in the amount of $236,000 for the Spring River Trail Rehab Project Phase 2.
I have a motion by Councilor Roebuck and a second by Councilor Kennard to approve Resolution 21-43. Mr. Nahar.
I'm back. Okay, Resolution 2143, the recreational trail project application is for continued work on Spring River Trail. If you haven't noticed, we started that project this week. We've been doing repairs between Virginia and Atkinson on what I call Phase 1 of the Spring River Trail. This would be Phase 2 from Pennsylvania to Union. We're asking for money to do the same kind of repairs, tear out the ones that are really broken up by the tree roots and water been doing damage. And this would be fiscal year 23 money if we're selected. Again, this is just an application. It doesn't require a resolution from the governing body that you all are in support of this project. And I stand for any questions.
Questions or comments, councilors? I will say briefly that I've been approached by a citizen, and I think Mr. Nebb has heard this too, about not doing asphalt for these trails using it was a crushed gravel, if I remember, Mr. Nebb.
Crushed clay, yeah.
Crushed clay, that it would be easier on joints. You might want to consider looking at that if you don't mind. Because I promised the citizen I would ask.
I'll look at it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, councilors? If not, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves Resolution 21-43, application for a funding for the recreational trail project. A no or nay rejects the application. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0. Item number 15 was the minutes. It was they were adopted when we passed the agenda, including the consent agenda. And now we are on item number 16. Oh my gosh, never guessed. Councilor Roebuck.
Why, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we approve Resolution 21-44, which provides support of Transportation Alternative Program TAP application in the amount of $225,000 for connections between Spring River Trail and Cielo Grande Trail.
I have a motion by Councilor Roebuck and a second by Councilor Kennard to approve Resolution 21-44 to support an application for Transportation Alternative Funding, Transportation Alternative Program funding. Mr. Nahar.
Mayor and council, this one's 2144. Let me explain to you the difference between an RTP and a TAP, why these projects were selected. So with an RTP, I can do maintenance. With a TAP, you cannot do maintenance. Thus, the Spring River Repair is a TAP project, and a new connection, no, Spring River Repair is an RTP project, and a new connection is a TAP project. This is an application for funding only. You got to know the rules, Mayor. For funding only for fiscal year 23, you probably have seen at General Services and Parks and Rec, the discussion of which option to use has been discussed. This is an application for funding only. It doesn't matter which option's chosen. This is just for money for fiscal year 23. So you could build one now, we could still build another one. It doesn't hurt to have two connections for trails as important as these two trails.
Okay. Any questions or comments, counselors? Counselor Kennard.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, as the self-appointed timekeeper, mention that our start time for regular business is 7:19, 42 minutes later. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, at this point, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves Resolution 21-44, seeking transportation alternative program funding. A no or nay rejects it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0. Next
Thank you,
up is
Counsel.
item number 17, Counselor Best.
I'd like to make a motion of purchase, approval of Taser 7 purchase.
I have a motion by Counselor Best and a second by Counselor Moore to approve the purchase of Tasers 7.
Evening, Mayor, Council,
evening.
Lieutenant Bradley, here to talk to you guys today about the purchase of an additional 30 tasers for the police department. Some of our stats and benefits: tasers have always been popular since they've come out in law enforcement. They can prevent shootings, protect citizens and officers. Unlike the baton, we're able to use a taser at longer range, up to 21 feet. And unlike pepper spray, there's no blowback that officers will experience when dealing with apprehension of suspects. Last year, our taser deployments accounted for approximately a quarter of our use of force incidents. It was 28 out of 117. And currently, we are outfitted with the X26, which has become severely outdated. We have 60 of the X26s right now that we began carrying almost 20 years ago. The usage of these tasers has become almost undoable due to the fact that they're deteriorating at a rapid pace, and Taser does not support the manufacture of any new equipment for that particular model, the X26. We also can't download or track any of our exposures through the Axon website. The new flagship model is the Taser 7. It's cutting-edge technology, greater deployment range, and improved accuracy, as well as improved technology. Our purchase agreement includes 30 tasers. It includes the analytics, the software, targets, batteries, charging stations, training updates, enough cartridges to recertify all our patrol division with new equipment, as well as have enough to deploy these into the field. It includes an additional 4-year coverage of the warranty, and on top of the 1-year warranty already provided with the purchase of the new equipment through Axon. The cost of the 30 tasers, it'll be $70,864. We'll use the money awarded from the Law Enforcement Protection Fund, and it'll be using the Intergovernmental Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, or the MPP, and it was awarded by the League of Oregon Cities. And I stand for any questions.
All right, thank you. Counselors, any questions or comments? Seeing none on my list, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the purchase of the Taser 7 units as presented. A no or nay rejects the purchase. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0.
Thank you, Mr.
Next up, thank you, is item number 18,
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Perry.
very quickly on
Yes.
this. As you're aware, this is the other half of the tasers that we've currently ordered. They all have new tasers. Every one of them have been replaced now. Thank you for that decision.
Thank you for that, Mr. Nebb, I appreciate that. All right, Counselor Perry.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, before I make that motion, I just wanted to say thank you to Councilor Best and the Public Safety Committee. When it was brought forth with the other ones, we felt that was a good idea, and they got on top of that quickly, so I'm glad to hear that all of our officers will be able to be supplied with those. So that as the father of 2 police officers, I'm very appreciative of that. Okay, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve your recommendation to the Chaves County Joy Center Board of Mary Bell Thompson.
I have a motion by Counselor Perry, who will activate his motion button to nominate Maribel Thompson, and a second by Counselor Kennard. Ms. Call.
Mayor, Council, as you can see, this is a recommendation from the mayor for the Chaves County Joy Center Board, and his recommendation is Maribel Thompson. And as you can see, the Chaves County Joy Center Board, it gives services to the senior citizen Chaves County with the age 60 and over. And I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions or comments, councilors? If not, I'm going to ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the nomination for the Chaves County Joy Center Board. A no or nay rejects it. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0. Next up is item number 19, Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did have one question, just maybe, on the Joy Center appointment. How long is that appointment for?
Till 2023,
2023.
correct.
Okay, and maybe if you said that before, I apologize that I didn't hear it.
No, I did not.
On the other ones, maybe if we could hear that as well, that'll help me. Okay, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve Mayor Kentai's recommendation to the Keep Roswell Beautiful Board for Jessica Grajeda.
I have a motion by Councilor Perry. Oh, one more time, Councilor.
I hope y'all know I did not play video games growing up, so this box is
You did well. You're doing well. Motion by Councilor Perry and a second by Councilor Kennard to fill the position 3 on the Keep Roswell Beautiful Board. Ms. Call.
Mayor, council members, this is Mayor Kentai's recommendation for position 3 on Keep Roswell Beautiful. This is a partial term ending April 1st, 2020 of Jessica Grajeda.
Any questions or comments? I do want to make note, councilors, there's still one position vacant. If you have any suggestions, please bring them to my attention or to Ms. Call's attention. At this time, I'll ask for a vote, voice vote. If all those in favor of the appointment to the Keep Roswell Beautiful Board signify by saying aye. Any opposed, please say nay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0.
Mr. Mayor, council members, there's also another option for any of the vacancies that we have open or the committees is to go online. Everything that we have open in every committee, the form is posted out there. They can submit it, and then it comes directly to our office.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, item number 20, Councilor Roebuck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we consider the construction of a water line to Mountain View Middle School.
I have a motion by Councilor Roebuck and a second by Councilor Kennard to approve a water line construction project to the Mountain View Middle School. Oh my golly, long time no see.
Long time no see. Mayor, Council, what you have before you is a request from RISD for the city to build a new water line to serve Mountain View Middle School. We would tie into it on South Main. We would run it east to the middle school. As you're looking at the picture, it would go on the left side or the north side. In essence, we would take out all those trees and put our water line right between the pavement and the fence line. It would only be one customer at this time. The RISD has given the letter of commitment, so whatever we spend on it, we will be reimbursed. Infrastructure voted 4-0, and I stand for any questions.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Perry, you have the floor.
Just a question of just not knowing. I know there are some residents that live in between our current line and where it will be going to. Will the line be running on the north or south side of the road?
It'll be on the north side.
It'll be on the north side of the road. So anyone who would have any of these others that would have a desire to be put on, how hard is that with the road there? I don't understand how the equipment works, so
Okay, number one, this is in the county.
I understand.
Okay, so once the line's in service and we assume maintenance of the project, of the water line, then yes, we could possibly have new customers. It would be no different than what we do now. You would tap it on the north side, you would bore service to the south side, put in a meter. Of course, those residents would have to pay twice the installation cost and twice the water rate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Quick note, Mr. Nahar knows this. This has been actually in the works for a while. I'd say we first broached this maybe, 3 years ago, something like that? Because there are 3 schools in the RSD system that do not have city water and have experienced significant losses of instructional days. So this is one. The other 2 are East Grand Plains and Brendo Middle. Mr. Nahar prepared estimates for those as well. And at this point, this RISD has not come up with the funding for them.
They are quite costly.
They are quite costly, true. But I appreciate Mr. Nahar's work on this. And this is, I think, a real win for the school district. So, seeing no one else wishing to speak on this matter, this will be a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the construction of a water line to Mountain View Middle School as presented. A no or nay rejects the project. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 9-0. Next
you,
up
Counsel.
is item number 732. Councilor Roebuck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This
21.
item, 21, yes.
I'm sorry.
This item was passed with no recommendation from infrastructure. However, there are a couple items because this has to do with a resolution we passed earlier with this list that aren't quite in line with the resolution requested. I'm going to make a motion that we table this and refer it back to infrastructure committee.
Okay, I have a motion to
Second.
refer this matter back to the Infrastructure Committee instead of taking action tonight. And I have the motion by Councilor Roebuck and the second by Councilor Kinnard. Any discussion on the motion to refer back to infrastructure? Hearing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the motion to refer this matter number 21, back to the Infrastructure Committee for further action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
I have a vote of, let's see what the final number is here, 8-1 with Councilor Peterson in opposition. Next up is item number 22. Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that we approve RFP 22-003, the scope of work for the janitorial and custodial services on the recommendation of the Finance Committee of 3-0.
I have a motion by Councilor Perry and a second by, anyone? Councilor Moore, to approve RFP 22-003 scope of work. Good evening, sir.
Mr. Mayor, councilors,
Oops, whoa. Is it one more back?
that's it.
There we go. All right. Well,
That's it. Yeah, we're good. Sorry, thank you.
all right.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, good evening. The item before you is consider approval of RFP 22-003, scope of work for janitorial custodial services. This item is to make available a pool of contractors to perform janitorial and custodial services throughout the city for departments that will not have an on-staff janitor. Finance Committee recommended it 3-0. Approval at their meeting on July 1st, 2021. I stand for any questions.
All right. Any questions or comments? Mr. Moore. I have Councilor Roebuck and Councilor Moore and Councilor Peterson. Councilor Roebuck, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we've been doing a lot of these pools of contractors, and I'm certainly fine with this one. I think it would be good for staff at some point in the next short while to kind of review all these pools that we've done and how they're going, how they're helping the city. I always like, whenever we're trying, this is a new way of doing business, let's take a moment and say, and really be able to say, this is really working for us, so people can feel confident that we're making the best decisions. Thank you. I yield.
Okay, thank you. I have Counselor Moore and Counselor Peterson. Counselor Moore, you have the floor.
I kind of agree with Councilor just said about that part. But my question about how many departments do we have that do not have their own janitorial services?
Mr. Mayor, Counselor, and I'm guessing without looking exactly, I believe it's 8. 6 to 8 at this time. So oh, I'm sorry, I heard the question incorrectly. Okay. Currently, we have, I believe, 6 custodians on staff.
For the whole city, for all the city offices and all that?
Correct, yeah, we have 6 custodians, and then, of course, we are utilizing custodial services in some of the other buildings. So,
All right, thank you. I have Counselor Peterson. That exhausts my list. Counselor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. So these 6 city workers, are they going to be fired?
no, sir. I'll just answer that one really quickly.
Okay.
if that's okay. No, Mr. Mayor, City Council, the intent is to actually open up the ability to utilize through that. We continue to utilize the custodians that we have. There is no layoffs, no firings, nothing happening with them. We're happy to keep the ones that we have, but the challenges will always come is trying to find capable individuals to do the work. And so what this does, this RFP actually does is a pre-approval of the companies so that we can speed the process along for that. And the hard part is that some of our buildings actually operate longer than an 8-hour window. So we have to have custodians actually clean certain areas that are open 12 hours. We have to have them cleaned more often than not. So utilizing the service as well as our own people, we're able to cover more ground.
Okay, thank you.
I have Counselor Orpesa, and that exhausts my list. Counselor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does the list that you presented earlier, Mr. Nib, does that include custodial positions that haven't been filled? You said there was like 70, I don't remember what the number was.
We have 73 or 75 positions opened. No, our custodial services, at least with the individuals we have, we are not missing any custodial individuals for our departments. Currently we have some of the buildings that are utilizing the services are similar to like the museum or the convention center here. So we don't consider those openings as such, but we are holding the 5 individuals similar to the police department has their own custodial in-house custodian in that building, and that's the way they want it for the specific reasons at the police department. So we have no openings for custodians today.
And there is no anticipation of opening up full-time custodial positions instead of going contract.
We're happy to utilize either direction. I am leaving it to a certain point up to the department head that is operating the building as to what fits the best for that service that is being provided. So this is kind of our accountability process that we're doing with all the departments. So the intent is that Mr. Moore here will be managing the facilities as far as what types of products and everything that are utilized. But if a department head that's responsible for that service says we would like to have our own in-house custodian, then they have the ability to hire that individual. If they choose to use the service, they have the ability to use the service. So we're putting the onus back on the department head is what we're doing.
So right now we have 6?
Currently we have 6.
And are they traveling from place to place, or are they established in one particular building?
Most of them are established within there. However, there are some that travel from location to location. The challenge we have with that is that I believe we're using 18,000 square foot per full-time equivalent custodian. So City Hall is not 18,000 square foot. So we have two custodians on the City Hall campus. So they're doing the City Hall, they're doing the City Hall Annex, and they're doing the Visitor Center. We have one custodian at Transit. Now, even though Transit is not big enough to have a full-time custodian, we have provided that custodian with other duties such as helping take care of the buses and similar work. It's just in a different field. So we have one out at solid waste that their only responsibility is out at solid waste. So the intent, I don't know of any of them other than possibly the one that is in parks, that is doing the parks offices in Cahoon, that she may travel into different areas because our parks offices are out on College at the old Schlumberger building. But we are taking care of, if an individual has to travel from one location to another, again, we're covering them through a city vehicle or those costs. So, but it's all balanced out within their hours. I know it's a longer answer than what the question was, but overall, we have most of them assigned to one department. I think the challenge comes when a department is bigger than just one site.
You know, I've always mentioned that I'm not pro-contract.
Yes, sir.
And so, you know, I believe that if we need maintenance people or custodial people, we should hire and have those individuals be part of the working staff. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that exhausts my list. At this point, I will ask for a voice vote on the RFP 22-003 scope of work. A yes or aye approves the RFP scope of work. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
And the vote is 7-2 with councilors Oropesa and Peterson in opposition. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the public participation on non-agenda items. Councilors, I have two individuals who signed up. I have a Mr. Conley and a Brian Shea. Mr. Conley, if you'll come forward at this time. Mr. All right, we could possibly do that. Mr. Shea, why don't you come on up? State your name, your address. You will have 3 minutes.
Brian Shea, 2603 Bay Meadows Drive. Last month I was at the meeting and I was discussing neighborhood concerns with the helicopter, possible city code violations, FFA violations. I found out that my 3 minutes was not enough time to do this. At that time, Mayor requested that I meet with Mr. Neeb, and they gave me cards. And they said to get a hold of him, and that's what I attempted to do. On Friday, the day after the meeting, I called, left a name, number, and issue. On Monday, I called, number, issue, call back. On Tuesday, I did the same thing. I did not receive a call back, and I still have not. I've needed to bring this up, this issue. I know it's sort of cliche that, you know, you work for us, but I was disappointed I never got a call back. And I'm hoping to get a call back before the next one. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Conley.
Larry Conley, 2815 in Canto. COVID hit in the spring of 2019, and it went through 2020, and now we're back. But I just would like to thank each of you individually for keeping the city running. And actually, I think we're in better shape now than we were in 2019. So I'd like to thank each of you councilors, mayor, city managers, deputy city managers, the whole staff. You guys have done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. All right. Next up is item number 20, Councilor Roebuck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just reiterate or just ask Mr. Nebb, typically speaking, our response time to the public is the next business day. Is that correct?
That is what we attempt, yes.
That's the attempt,
That is
okay.
correct.
And so I would just encourage you to make sure that, and we've been really good at it in the past. I think we've been actually excellent about it. I think in the past 3 to 6 months, I've had a couple problems with that myself. Not personally, but what my personal issues are regardless, but just having people who have had trouble getting a hold of people at the city and not getting responses. I wonder if we might maybe send a message down the chain of reminding people that's the expectation.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, we'll be meeting tomorrow with the senior staff, and we'll discuss that again. I will let you know for Mr. Shea, rather than to call him back at the time, I put him in touch with the CEO, Warren Yell, to take care of the conversation. I believe that conversation did occur. Mr. Yell has met with most of those individuals. I will make the correction and call Mr. Shea back, but I wanted to get him to the person that could take care of the issue that he had. And so that is what happened within this process. So I will make sure that Mr. Shea is aware of that, and we'll have our conversation.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
and we appreciate you doing that. Thanks.
I have Councilor Orpesa and Councilor Moore. Councilor Orpesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to know for the record that there were 2 individuals here that wanted to speak on a consent agenda items, and I'm thinking it's a demolition of property or the other one. And even though that we get annoyed by pulling all the consent agenda items, there is a reason for it. And again, if I'd have known that these 2 individuals wanted to address it, I would have pulled that one as well. And so even though we have a certain counselor keeping time of consent agendas, it doesn't matter. I think we have to hear the people that want to address this council. Thank you.
I have Councilor Moore, and that exhausts the list. Councilor Moore.
I asked the next day if those gentlemen had been contacted, and I was told by Neb and both of them that the guy from the hospital had called everybody and talked about. So to me, I think that's a fair solution. They wasn't asking to speak to you. They wanted their situation addressed, and it was addressed immediately. I mean, I asked the next day, and they had already made this, and this, and Mr. Neb and Mr. Matthews had a list of the things that were done, what they had taken care of. So I don't like how he came in and said that. I will tell him myself because you got your agenda, your problem addressed. It doesn't matter that you didn't call in specifically. His problem was addressed. And so if there was still a problem, he should have called you back and said there's still a problem and not come at you like that. I have an issue with that because I know that problem that they were concerned about was specifically addressed in the time within 24 hours, and the hospital had contacted them. They should feel better about the hospital. It's the hospital's property, not ours. So they should have felt okay with the hospital people calling them and telling them what they done, that the grass was planted and all that. So I'm not okay with that. So.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, City Council, we'll make the reach out to Mr. Shea, take care of that. And also, it's unfortunate. I believe the 2 individuals that showed up for the condemnation question did not understand our processes. So we'll do what we can in order to make sure they understand that they can sign up to speak at any point in time, at the public participation. The challenge is that those were on consent agenda, and I would say that the City Council is not the appropriate body in order to help with what that gentleman's concerns are. It is staff that will need to work with them in order to get there. It's a difficult issue with any of the condemnations, but we'll try to do a little bit better with that as well too, and we'll try to make sure that these individuals know how to work through our process in this room as well too.
Okay.
Thank you.
That exhausts my list. Thank you, Mr. Nebb. At this time, I'll call on Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the city council go into closed session pursuant to NMSA 1978, statute 10-15-1H7, to discuss attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened or pending litigation with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and with Travis County, New Mexico.
I have a motion by Counselor Perry when he activates them, and a second by Counselor Kennard to go into closed session as presented. Any discussion or debate? This matter requires a roll call vote. A yes or aye takes us into the closed session. A no or nay keeps us in open session. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Peterson?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Robeck?
Yes.
Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Motion passes.
It's actually 9-0 with Counselor Roebuck. At this time, it is 7:52. Counselors, we are going to be meeting in an office in the administrative area of the convention center. It's across the opening here. Ms. Juanita Jennings can direct us. So it is 7:52. We will meet there at 7:55. Wow.
can't even call it resistance, really. Just not simpler.
Let the minutes reflect it's 8:55 and the mayor's not up here yet.
"8:55, we're back in session. Councilor Perry.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. For the record, the city council is back in open session at 8:55 p.m. We had a closed session pursuant to NMSA 1978, statute 10-15-1H, paragraph 7, to discuss attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened or pending litigation with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and with Chaves County, New Mexico. No action was taken and no votes were made.
All right, thank you, sir. Next up is the city manager report.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, City Council, I have just one item on my report or announcements. We are holding a special finance committee meeting on July 26th at 5 p.m. And of course, we have the special city council meeting coming up as well too in order to approve the budget. Mr. Fuentes, Ms. Davies is they're finalizing all the numbers. And what we're hoping to do in the special finance committee is that if there is any adjustments to the budget that you would like us to research before it's put out on the floor, we're happy to do that. We've got a couple of them that we're running down some of the information on right now in order to find out what that truer cost is so that we can lock down the budget. So those are the only two items I have, is just making sure that you know that we're having a special finance committee meeting, and then we will have the special city council meeting a little bit after that, I believe. And the special finance committee meeting is on the 26th? 26, yes. And then our council meeting? I'm sorry, the
Finance committee meeting will be the 16th.
16th.
And
the
then the
26th
city
is the
council.
special city council meeting.
Thank you.
And note that the special city council meeting is on the same night as an infrastructure committee meeting, so we're going to be tight for time. But the special the special finance meeting, I apologize for that, is on the 16th. And we're trying to do any back analysis that we can in order to prepare. Again, keep in mind that the budget is a one-time thing, and we can adjust it the next hour or the next day. So it is really just to get all of our paperwork into the state. But we are, if we're going to add other costs to the budget, we're going to take other costs out. And so that's the intent. So, Mr. Mayor, that is all I have.
Mr. Knapp, did you have one more thing you wanted to add to the announcement, your announcements for your manager report?
Okay. Yeah, I believe I'm gonna let Counselor Peterson speak first, and then I'll finish that one out.
Let me jump in here real quick. Counselor Kennard had a quick question, and we'll go to Counselor Peterson.
I just wanted to see if we could get calendar invites for those 2 meetings, because I don't have
Yes,
them on my
ma'am.
calendar.
We will make it happen.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. On that note, Counselor Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to say I'll be resigning on July 21st. I did receive a job offer with the city of Roswell at the cemetery. I have enjoyed the past few years as a counselor. You guys are doing a great job. The city staff is very professional, and the city clerk is great. I would say that the city is moving in a great direction. I would also say we have done a lot of good in the past few years, and I want to thank those that have supported me. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Counselor Peterson. I appreciate those comments.
Mr. Mayor, and just so you know, just because it is one of your peers as well that we've taken away from you, Mr. Peterson will be going out to the cemetery. He will be the number 2 underneath Ruben's guidance. It is a supervisory position. We're going to be able to utilize his skill set in equipment, crew supervision, and so he is going to be helping Ruben with what is happening out at the cemetery. We're happy to have him on board, and we believe that we'll get great use out of his skills and talents out there at the cemetery.
I understand
Thank you.
people will be dying to meet him.
Yeah. He is dying to start this job, and but we welcome him back home. So, thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. At this point, we have committee reports. Counselor Perry.
I just wanted to congratulate Councilman Peterson on his new position and just say I served for Ward 4 as well, and he came in, and it's always been hard in that ward, especially where Councilor Sanchez and I have been, to find people willing to serve. Councilor Peterson, we've not always agreed on everything, but that's not what this council's about. It's not about agreeing on everything. It's about serving our constituents in the way that we feel that they would want us to, and I appreciate the manner which you've done so, and wish you luck in the future.
All right, thank you. All right. Going to committee reports, I'll go with finance first. So it goes back to Councilor Perry. Anything you wish to share with the council as a whole at this time?
I would just like to share that the meeting coming up, the special meeting for the budget, I just really would encourage folks, as has been said, it makes the process go so much easier if you have something that you would desire to see within the budget that you currently do not see, or you have questions concerning the budgets that you currently would have. Come see staff as soon as possible, because for every dollar that a project that you would desire to see come on, one of 2 things has to happen. Either a dollar has to be removed from somewhere else, or we have to up our expected money that comes in, and so we have to make those adjustments. I've never really enjoyed when we get to a meeting where a decision of that surmounting necessity has to be made, and all of a sudden new stuff is being brought in. Of course, each counselor has that right and each ability. I'm just asking for us to consider giving staff that opportunity to get that information together, so that on that night we're ready to move forward for the city of Roswell. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilor Moore for the General Services Committee.
I don't have a lot to say. I do know that we were talking about, I think there was at General Services about the pathways and stuff, and there's going to be some stuff coming forward to the council about which phase that we're going, which one of those paths are connecting their Rio Grande to the other one, which one of the decisions is going to be made. Some information is coming forward to the council, so that can all be discussed, so you guys can think about it. And I think that's all I really remember that we still needed to talk about.
Thank you. And infrastructure, Councilor Roebuck.
Nothing to report. Thank you, Mayor.
Legal, Councilor Stubbs.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want everyone to know that I sort of put together what we're calling a cannabis steering committee. And I just want everyone to know that we are beginning the work on it. I invited the Chair of Finance and the Chair of Public Safety to join. And Mr. Mavers and his new assistant Spencer, whom we didn't see tonight, but he's been a big help, I think, to you, and you have, of course, to us, as to sorting out all of this information and non-information that we're trying to put together on this new issue. I think it's important for everyone to know that we're concentrating specifically on zoning and prohibitions for what we're going to put forth to everyone. The state has set for themselves a date of September 1 to start issuing, I don't know what their permits, license, whatever.
I think it's the regulations first, and then the permits will come later.
Oh, I thought the permit, okay. At any rate, we are, thanks to Parker, obviously, very mindful of at least what we do know from the state, so appreciative of him. And of course, Mike is in there with us as well. But I think the zoning is kind of where we've come to the thought that that's going to really be the core of what we end up doing here in Roswell. And Mr. Mavers is in the process with his staff and the commission of looking at different kinds of overlaying requirements that people are going to have to go through to satisfy this. I do think we've had consensus on the fact that any permit, whatever, that we issue will come to council as well as go through the Planning and Zoning Commission, that we're going to try to have it come to council because we think that's where this should come, or should be. This is the body that should be finalizing, so that will be part of that. The timetable that we're on is kind of set by that September 1st date. So legal will be meeting at our regular meeting on the 22nd of July. And we can do the same thing, can't we, Parker? We can send out a calendar notice to everybody, because I think it's important that, well, you get it anyway. No.
I will make sure that all the counselors get a calendar invite on
Right.
the legal committee meeting.
Plus you get the agenda anyway. So we're going to try to concentrate that legal committee meeting specifically on the cannabis. And then we want to be able to shirt tail actually on the special council meeting that's on the 26th to advertise for a public hearing, so that we can have that in August and hopefully be prepared, like I say, for September to happen. So really would appreciate everyone attending and certainly working through this with us, but we've got a lot of work to do, so thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Public Safety, Counselor Best.
Nothing.
Okay. Future agenda items. Counselors, any particular item that any of you would like to see on the agenda for August? All right. Let the record reflect that there was no suggested agenda items. All right. Without further ado, I have 9:06. We are adjourned. Yay. That's okay. I'll put it down here because it's sweating. Oh, serious. We just need to do it. And I talked to Scott about this.